And welcome
Hi.
to third episode of our series, The Weird and Wonderful World of Children, the fruit of a collaboration between Baby Brains and Goldsmith University. Today we're here with Teresa Facchetti, a PhD student on her end of the second, beginning of the third year. Welcome, Teresa. Thank you so much for joining us today to talk about attachment.
Hi, thanks for having me.
First of all, would you like to tell us a little bit about what brought you to study attachment at Goldsmith University?
Yeah, it's not really my research focus, but it's a topic that I'm very passionate about, and it's something that is really relevant when when I'm more on the clinical side of things, because it's a topic that is important for many people, especially in adult relationships. Yeah, so I became very interested in attachment and polyvagal theory.
That's really exciting. So, without further ado, I would uh, suggest that you show us your what you've prepared for us. We're really looking forward to learn more about attachment and what science actually says about it.
Sure. So today we are going to discuss attachment that has been developed by John Bowlby and then further extended by Mary Ainsworth. So when we talk about attachment, we refer to that deep emotional bond that develops between individuals. So the first and most important attachment we experience usually is with our main caregiver, that is usually a parent. But this concept then later on in life can also apply to adult relationships. So this emotional bond is characterized by feeling of trust, safety, and that deep core belief that our attachment figure will be there for us in times of need. So for a child, this is a vital mechanism because when it enables the child to feel confident and safe to explore the environment and make new social connection. And there's been a lot of research that showed how children who experience extended disruption in this attachment bond actually show long-lasting cognitive, emotional, and social difficulties later on in life. So attachment develops in the first 2 years and a half of life, with the sensitive period lasting 5 years. We have the first 6 weeks of life in which the child signals to everyone and doesn't really differentiate between getting comfort from familiar people or from strangers. And we start to see a bit of preference for familiar faces in the second phase that lasts up to 6 to 8 months. But it's in the third phase that we can really start the attachment bond developing, the so-called clear out attachment. So in this phase, usually children start to show distress and separation anxiety when the caregiver leaves, and they get comforted mainly by their attachment figure. And then we have the last phase that is a bit later on, in which children start to develop language, so they become more active in these relationships, so they can receive comfort, but they can also provide comfort back to the caregiver. So, in the caregiver-child relationship, the caregiver play basically a dual role. It acts as a safe haven and as a secure base. So, the concept of safe haven is that the caregivers are crucial in providing emotional support to the child in times of distress and challenging situation. So, children have this instinct of referring to their caregiver when they are facing difficulties. And it's very important that children receive this comfort because this allows them to develop all of a set of self-regulation skills and emotional skills. The second role that the caregiver has is a secure base. So the idea that the caregiver acts as a reliable and constant source of support for the child. And securely attached children usually are more keen to explore the environment, and they are more curious because they know that there will be someone there for them. So there is this sense of safety. So Bowlby also developed the idea, sorry, of this internal working model. So it's basically a cognitive framework that individuals develop based on their early attachment experiences that shapes also the individual's attachment style. So we can think about it as a set of mental expectation that we have about ourselves, about others, and about relationships throughout our lives. So Mary Ainsworth was able to observe four type of attachment styles through the strange situation paradigm. That was basically a study in which she was observing children who were separated and then reunited with their caregivers. And she found this attachment style. The first of all is secure. So securely attached children usually have a strong relationship with their caregiver. They feel safe at exploring the environment, as we mentioned before, because they know that the caregiver will be there for them. So these children usually tend to be more socially competent and more emotionally resilient, really. And then we have anxious attachment. So anxiously attached children usually appear as anxious and insecure of the caregiver's ability to meet their needs. So behaviorally wise, they may appear as clingy and they may appear as they need a lot of comfort, but then when they receive this comfort, they are very hard and difficult to soothe, and they may like create some resistance to this comfort. And this attachment style usually develops because of an inconsistent caregiving. So usually these parents are inconsistent. Sometimes they are able to meet the child needs, sometimes they are not. Then we have avoidant attachment. These children usually create some kind of differentiation, emotional division between themselves and the caregiver. So these children, they tend to be distant, and when they are distressed, they don't really look for comfort. And this is the result usually of caregivers who are dismissive of the child emotional needs. And then we have the last one that was actually found and discovered a bit later on, that is disorganized. So disorganized children really don't have a pattern of attachment strategies. So sometimes they may act as anxious, sometimes they may act as avoidant. So for example, they may look for comfort, but then they freeze when they receive discomfort. And this is the result of a highly inconsistent parenting or even abusive. So these children usually are left with a sense of confusion and a sense of anxiety. So we can also look at attachment from a biological perspective. So the premise here is that our human biology is strongly wired to seek safety, and we find safety through a sense of connection. So according to Porsche, who developed the polyvagal theory, connection is a biological imperative, and it looks really at the role of the autonomic nervous system and the impact that it has on our social functioning. So when we look at our autonomic nervous system, it's basically your child automatic pilot system. So it controls all of the things that happen in our body without us even knowing it. So for example, controlling the heart rate, controlling digestion, and so forth. And it's divided into different branches. So we have the sympathetic division, that triggers the fight or flight response to perceived stress. So physiologically is visible through changes such as increased heart rate, increased alertness. And when this system is overworked, we can see and we can experience anxiety, stress, and also resistance. And then we have the parasympathetic division that it works in the opposite way, basically. So it's that branch that promotes relaxation, so slows down the heart rate, conserves energy. And this part of our autonomic nervous system is divided into two branches, that is ventral vagal and dorsal vagal. So ventral vagal reacts when we feel safe. So it's when we feel centered and we feel like we are able to connect with others. And then we have the dorsal vagal that responds to life-threatening signals, so leads to shutdown, numbness, low energy, disconnection from others. And this is usually reported. It is very common actually in victims of trauma or during high stress periods, because people usually report this feeling of being unable to move their bodies. So our autonomic nervous system gets regulated according to two principles. The first of all is neuroception. So it's basically the job of our autonomic nervous system to keep us safe. And the autonomic nervous system does that by taking information from three different sources. So from inside our bodies, from the world around us, and from our connection with others. And Stephen Porges forged the terms neuroception to explain how our autonomic nervous system is unconsciously able to detect cues of safety inside and outside of us. So it's like of a radar that is constantly seeking for cues of safety and answering the question, am I safe? That in terms of connection means, am I seen? Am I accepted for who I am? Am I loved here? So this process is automatic. And when our radar detects cues of safety in our environment, it activates what we call as the ventral vagal status that promotes social engagement. On the opposite side, if this radar detects like perceived threats, we can either enter the sympathetic or the dorsal vagal status. So I'm going to give a practical example to explain this a bit better. So if we imagine, for example, a child that in the morning he goes to school and the teacher is very welcoming and the classmates are happy to see him, so the child is in a place of safety. So his breathing is steady, his heart rate is calm, and the body feels calm. So the child is happy to connect with others. So he's in the ventral vagal status. And if later on in the morning the child is doing a math test and start to feel insecure and anxious about his responses in the test, so the room starts to feel a bit hot and the child's become restless, he starts to feel anxious, so his heart rate goes up, he starts sweating a bit, and the child basically entered the sympathetic status. So enter like another state of our autonomic nervous system. And then the same child, after the math test, for example, at lunch break, he feels very embarrassed for his performance. So he starts to feel disconnected. He stays in a corner. He doesn't want to play. He experiences like low level of energies. So the child in this moment enter the dorsal vagal status. So the idea is that we transition through these three states of our nervous system based on our perceived cues of safety and the environmental context around us. So the interesting part is that the autonomic nervous system already early in our development, even before birth, begins to take shape alongside with other neural pathways. So around 3 months into pregnancy, our autonomic nervous system is able to reflect the state of our mothers. So if the mother she's calm and she experiences, for example, contentment, we begin to learn that the world is a safe space. However, if our mother experiences, for example, frequent anxiety during pregnancy, our nervous system and our neurochemical responses tend to align with hers, setting the stage for predisposition for fear. Then when we are born, the concept of co-regulation becomes very important. So when we are born, we naturally seek a connection with our caregiver. And this connection called co-regulation helps us feel safe and connected by mirroring each other's emotions and responses. So for example, when we cry or we need something, if our caregivers are able to meet our needs, we are able to calm down and we learn that we are safe. And co-regulation also helps our brain develop emotional connection and emotional control, and help us makes feel loved even when our caregiver are not with us. So if we go back to attachment styles, children who are securely attached usually have a well-regulated nervous system. So of course they are going to go through all of the three different states of our autonomic nervous system, but they are more capable of going back into a ventral state, into a place of calm, because of this inner sense of security that they have. Anxiously attached children tend to be more hypervigilant because of the inconsistent caregiving that they experience. They became hypervigilant to signals of threat. So as threats meaning the fear of being abandoned or rejected. So they enter more the sympathetic state of our autonomic nervous system. And this can display as outbursts, as anxiety, or as, for example, high distress. And then we have avoidant children. So avoidant children learned that showing their emotion won't elicit a positive response from their caregivers. So this is consistent more with the dorsal vagal. They learned that the safest way is shutting down. So when they experience, for example, emotional distress or they are in a challenging situation, the typical response is just shutting down and feeling disconnected. And as for disorganized children, they have kind of an erratic response, so they tend to show anxious and avoidant strategies. So in the same way, they tend to enter more the sympathetic status and the dorsal vagal. So if we connect all of the dots and we look at how we can promote a secure attachment in childhood, here I just put some tips for parents. And first of all, it's important to have consistent routines. So children thrive in routines, and because it gives them a sense of safety and predictability. So this is a very good strategy to foster safety and a secure attachment. It's very important also spending some time with children, some quality time and playing with them, because through play we can develop a positive bonding and connection. Another important concept is trying to model and teach co-regulation. So at the beginning, co-regulation will be more on one side. So it's more the parent helping the child co-regulating their nervous system. But as the child grows up, the parent can kind of help the child developing their own self-regulation skills. So for example, problem-solving skills, or the idea that even if I'm not good in doing something, before or after I will learn how to do that, and it doesn't matter if we fail. So all of these self-regulation skills, or for example, briefing as well, will help the child then later on in life. And then effective communication is the key. So always try to encourage open communication with the child, and always trying to understand the child perspective on things. It's very important validating the child feelings and let them know that it's okay to experience a broad range of different emotions. And the next one is especially important in terms of avoidant attachment. So being emotionally available with our children, and that means trying to create an emotionally supportive environment. So trying to validate the child emotion. So if the child is crying, it would be detrimental saying there's no reason for you to cry. So just trying to validate and being there for the child emotion. And then the last one that is more in line with the polyvagal theory is just to trying to manage our own stress as much as we can, of course, and emotion, because as we saw before, a calm and regulated nervous system that helps the child develops as well a calm and regulated nervous system. So yeah, thank you very much. I hope it was clear.
Yeah, there is. It was very clear, and at the same time, very illuminating to have this connection between attachment and the nervous system. And also, thank you for all the tips, because I think parents were really, we really need them. And in one sense, it's really interesting in itself to learn more about our babies and children, and yet having practical ways, ideas of practical ways how to put that into practice is extremely precious. So really, thank you very much.
Of course.
There was something I noticed that I found very interesting at the beginning. You were showing the slide of, how attachment develops, and and we could see, and it was interesting that basically in the first year and a half, I think it was in your, it's not it doesn't feel very reciprocal, like even 2 years.
Yeah.
It's the child hanging on, first of all, not necessarily showing us that they prefer us, because then we know that if we look closer, they do prefer their parents.
Yeah.
But there is not like a kind of clinging on to them as such yet, because of course they are not yet able to do that. But I just wanted to shout out to all those parents that are in that phase, because it can be, I remember with my first child, you put in a lot. You provide all that. You try to be that safe haven. You try to be acceptant. You try to provide for all the needs of the child, and it can feel sometimes that not so much is coming back. There is not that conversation. There is not that. And again, we at Baby Brains, we believe that you just need to look closer. And this is why we have an app where we kind of help parents to see all the ways that the baby actually shows us how they
Yeah.
love us and how they are attached to us, or they're building that attachment to us.
Mhm.
But yeah, it takes such a long time for this mutuality of their relationship um, to blossom, and then it keeps changing throughout life, right? Like secure
Mhm.
attachment at 3 years old is not going to look exactly the same as 11 year old or 20 or whatever.
Yeah, of course. And if we look at the fact that our neural pathways are already starting developing even before babies are born, that really give us the clue that it's good that we are putting effort, even if we don't see anything back, but it's still making a difference.
Yeah, so it is worth it, and the
Yeah.
reward will come. Well, if you can look, it's already there, but for sure it will be very visible a little bit down the line. Now, before this talk that we're having today, we ask our audience what they think about attachment, and one
Mhm.
question was, "What is secure attachment good for?" And 50% of people said physiological regulation.
Mhm.
Another 50% said resilience. And then there was as well communication skills, and nobody selected that. And none of the above. So everybody knew that attachment was good for something. um, is secure attachment good for communication skills as well?
Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, because if, as we've seen before, like securely attached children usually have parents who um, foster safe communication and promote communication. So these children usually are um, socially more competent, and when you are socially competent, you're also good in communicating and in expressing your needs. They are not scared of expressing like what they need, what they want. So that makes us effective in communication, and is actually good for all of the other things you mentioned as well. Yeah, so there's no side effect, let's say, to have a secure attachment style.
Yeah. And considering everything that you've said so far, that we've got it begins to develop so early, it becomes very clear that the role that parents have in um, giving the child the best possible chances in life is really quite major. You know, we think that maybe I don't know, for example, communication skills, they're going to learn that at university, and we're going to pay lots of money to send our child to the best possible university so that they are great communicators. But really, this is something that happens already when they're in the womb. I mean, we're starting to put on the bricks. Um,
Yeah.
so it's at the same time, I can understand that it can be a little bit daunting for parents, but at the same time, it's really fascinating, and it shows how important the role of parents actually is.
Yeah, it's like when they say children are like sponges, they just mirror what they see and they learn through them. Then of course I think it's a bit challenging because ideally we would be always all of us would be calm and safe and content all the time, but then it's not possible realistically. So
Yeah,
we can just try to do our best.
absolutely. So when we asked our audience whether secure attachment has any side effect, everybody said no. So we all believe that secure attachment is good. But then when we ask, do you know how to support your child's healthy attachment? 60% of people said, not really. So you already gave us some ideas of how we can support our child's secure attachment. But would you mind kind of develop a little bit on that, expand a little bit on that, so that if somebody hasn't caught the previous slide, you can kind of reinforce that. What can we do to actually help our little ones develop secure attachment?
Yeah, so I think the first important thing is consistency. So it's really important that we are trying to be consistent in meeting the child needs, of course, as much as we can. And with meeting the needs is not only about the physiological needs, but also the emotional ones that actually are very, very important, and sometimes they are a bit overlooked. So yeah, being there, to meet all of the physical needs, but also emotional. So provide that support and validate the child emotion when they are crying, like let them know that they are understood. Because I think about when we think about attachment, the most important thing is that sense of worth that we develop. So it's really important that we feel seen and accepted for who we are, and validating our emotion kind of increase our sense of worth, because we learn that our needs are okay, and it's okay for us to express these needs. Um, yeah, so I think consistency is one of the most important thing, especially emotional consistency. And then, yeah, just make the child feel loved and seen for who they are. And I think that's crucial.
Yeah. So it sounds easy, and then I don't know if our like listeners' life is similar to mine. When you have maybe several children, but even one child is enough. Life gets very busy, and you are busy with the grocery shopping and the washing, the dishwashers, all the things that need to be done. Christmas, writing Christmas cards, buying presents. Like there is so much going on in our lives. It's easy to overlook our little ones. It's easy to have almost treat them like another of our lines in our to-do list. So I need to change them. I need to go pick them up from school. I need to bring them to that place. Um, and of course, we need to do those things. But even more than that, um, we need to make sure they know that they are seen by us. I really like how you put the emphasis on that they need to know that they exist to us, that they are full people, and that we pay attention to them. And so especially now at that time when Christmas is coming up, and we will be so busy with plenty of things. Let's remember to actually see our little ones. And, even when maybe they throw a tantrum because the Christmas present was not exactly what they wanted, or whatever it is, it's our time to shine. It's our time to actually, of course, not say it's okay to be super rude. That's absolutely not the point. But to see that emotion that is there, and to treat it as something that happened and that we are gonna deal with together. And this is, I think, this is very precious.
Yeah. And also sometimes I think there is 10 minutes are enough, like especially when children are looking for attention and then they go on, and maybe, mom is busy doing something else. I think just a few minutes of quality time then can actually make a big difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just stopping whatever you're doing and taking those 10 minutes, it's the best investment you can make. And it's great in terms of long term because of all the things that you have explained to us. But even in the short term, if you, I don't know, do a puzzle with your little one, and then you can get on and do the cooking quietly, because the child will be appeased. They will be fine and happy to let you get on with your life. While if you deny them this time, this quality time to begin with, but throughout the afternoon, the evening, whatever you're trying to do, they're gonna need that from you. They're gonna ask it from you, and that's gonna slow you down. So even in practical terms, short-term terms, it's really worth it
Yeah.
to spend that quality time. Plus, it's nice. Like, let's just indulge in it. It's nice to hang out with children and play with them. So yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you very much, Teresa. This has been really, really helpful, and we look forward to hearing what everybody thinks about this, and if they have any more question, we're gonna shoot them over to you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much, and we hope to have
Thanks
you
for
back
having me.
soon. And all the best for your future adventures. Maybe next
Thank
time
you.
we connect all the way to New York. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
That would be exciting. So sending you all the best and wishing you a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you so much, Teresa. Bye.
Bye. Bye bye.